Alright, this video we're going to start with number 15, and 15 through 17 asks us to find the measure of each angle and then classify it according to its angle measure. So they actually want us to do two things. So first, let's find the measure of number 15, and before we can find the measure, we actually need to figure out what is the angle. Well, they ask us for angle JNK, so that means that n's in the middle, so that must be the vertex. So I start at J, which is here, I go to N, and then I go to K. So they're talking about this angle. That is angle JNK. So to find the measure of the angle, I need to measure it, and we measure angles using a protractor. So therefore, I want to use this. So remember, you take your protractor, and this point right here, the center, you put on the vertex of the angle that you want, and you line up one of the sides with the line. Notice that there's a line, okay? And if yours doesn't have a line and it's actually the bottom of the protractor, then you line up the bottom of the protractor with one side of your angle. So notice that I have lined up the protractor with one side of the angle, and then you look at the other side to figure out the measurement. Now, this crosses at two different measurements. It looks as if it crosses notice the numbers up top go increasing this way, whereas the numbers on the bottom are decreasing. So it looks like it may be 32 or 148, or somewhere around about that. So the question is, which number do I use? Well, look at the angle itself that's highlighted in yellow. This angle is acute. So if you remember, acute angles must be less than 90 degrees, which means I must use the 32 degree measure, not 148 degrees. So therefore, and then one is measure, so technically we should put M. The measure of angle JNK is equal to 32 degrees. And we just actually classified it, we named it, when we said that it was an acute angle. Okay? So now, let's look at, I'm going to move this up a little bit. Let's look at the next angle, KNM. So let's erase this so we don't get mixed up with it. So this angle starts at K, ends the vertex because that's in the middle, and goes to M. So I'm going to start at K, go to N, and then stop at M. So looking at that angle, we automatically should realize that it's an obtuse angle. So now let's take the protractor, let's put the center on the vertex, line up this bottom line with one side. So notice I lined it up with this side of my angle here, and then see where it crosses. Well, look, it looks like it crosses in exactly the same spot, which should make sense because this angle that we just measured and this angle actually share this side. Now this time, since it is an obtuse angle, I'm going to use the 148 degrees. So the measure of angle KNM is 148 degrees. And we said a moment ago that because it's bigger than 90 degrees, this is an obtuse angle. All right, and then there is one more angle they want. Whoop, didn't mean to move that one. There is one more angle that they want us to measure, and that angle, I'm going to get rid of this, is angle LNM. So that means I start at L, I go to N, and I stop at M. So start at L, go to N, stop at M. So then I pull my protractor down, line it up with one side. That crosses at exactly 90. So exactly 90 degrees is the measure of this angle, and that is called a right angle. Okay. All right, so there's our review of measuring angles. So let's go on to the next page. Number 18, 19, and 20 tell us the measure of angle 1, they'd say angle 1 and angle 2 are complementary angles. Given the measure of angle 1, find the measure of angle 2. Well, the main thing that you have to remember here is complementary means that they add to equal 90 degrees. So I have two angles, measure of angle 1 and the measure of angle 2, and they should equal 90. Well, if angle 1 is 87 degrees, I would subtract 87 from 90, and that leaves me with 3. So that means that angle 2 can only have a measure of 3 degrees, because remember, angle 1 and angle 2 must add to equal 90. So if angle 1 is 87, that only leaves 3 degrees for angle 2. So we're going to do the same thing for the next one. They have to add to be 90 because it says they're complementary. Well, angle 1 is 15 degrees, so if I subtract 15 from 90, that gives me 75. So that means that the measure of angle 2 must equal 75 degrees. And then the last one says the measure of angle 1 is 71 degrees. So I'm going to subtract 71 degrees, and that leaves me with 19. So therefore the measure of angle 2 must equal 19 degrees, because remember, they have to equal 90 when you add them together. And now, very related to numbers 18 through 20 are numbers 21 through 23, except this time they tell us that angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary angles. Given the measure of angle 1, find the measure of angle 2. Well, remember, supplementary is just a fancy way of saying they add to equal 180 degrees. So that means whatever angle 1 is, you would subtract from 180, and that would tell you what angle 2 has to be. So 180 minus, in this case, 8 gives us 172. So that means the measure of angle 2 must equal 172 degrees, because when you add 1 and 2 together, they must total up to be 180 degrees. Now, the next one, remember, angle 1 and angle 2 are supplementary, so I'm going to subtract. And this should give 93, which means that the measure of angle 2 must be 93 degrees. And then the last one on here says it's 115 degrees. So I'm going to subtract, and that leaves me with 65. So that means the measure of angle 2 must be 65 degrees.